Our new flagship Digital Panorama report. My name is Radka Sibile. I am the Digital Policies and Trade Coordinator at the UPU, and I will be moderating today's discussion. Before we start, just a few organizational announcements, please. This webinar will be recorded, and you can find the recording at the UPU webpage, as per usual. We will also be using English and French interpretation, so please refer to your interpretation channels as needed. And we are also kindly asking those who are not speaking to please mute their mics so as to avoid any background noises. And now that we are all set and ready to go, I would also like to express our thanks and sincere appreciation to the Japanese Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications for their support to the preparation of this new report, and also to our work on digital transformation of posts in general. And with this, I now would like to give the floor to the UPU Director General, Mr. Masahiko Metoki, for opening remarks. Mr. Director General, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for a kind introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Dear representative of member countries, designated operators, and respected unions. Dear colleagues, on behalf of the UPU, I am pleased to welcome you all to the launch of the latest edition of UPU's flagship Digital Panorama report. As was highlighted by many of members during the UPU Congress last month, the digital transformation of the postal sector is essential to enhancing its efficiency, competitiveness, and relevance in today's digital economy. This report provides strong evidence of what many of us already believed. Based on an extensive global survey of DOs and many case studies from countries across the UPU regions, it shows that the postal sector is already playing an important role in advancing digital inclusion and bridging the digital divide, and that it has the potential to contribute even more. Postal are doing this by diversifying into areas such as e-commerce, digital financial services, and e-government. At the same time, the report introduces a new evidence-based narrative on the value of offering essential digital services through DO postal networks. It shows how governments, private partners, and other stakeholders can leverage the postal network as part of a multi-channel service delivery approach, using digitally enabled post office counters and digitally upgraded postal infrastructure to make essential services more inclusive and accessible. This participation was concerned as an evidence-based decision-making tool for governments, DOs, and partners. The ultimate goal of the report is to attract investment in postal infrastructure, connectivity, and postal sector diversification into digital services. It provides data and insights on where and why to invest in the digital transformation of DOs to help maximize both the sector's social impact and the revenue stream of DOs. Finally, the findings also inform and underpin our Connect.Post initiatives, as well as the technical assistance project carried out by our digital transformation team. These efforts will support member countries and DOs in putting the report's recommendations into action and in the meeting the digital transformation expectations expressed at the Riyadh Congress. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and I invite you all to read the report itself. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Director General, for your welcoming words. We can now deep dive into the Digital Panorama report and start the discussion with our panelists. For this, we have a great lineup today of speakers, which I will now present. So first, we will enjoy the presentation of the Digital Panorama report by its author, Mr. Kevin Hernandez, who is our digital inclusion expert at the UPU. Then we invited Mrs. Irene Kagwa, program manager from our sister UN agency, the International Telecommunications Union, which is actually the only UN agency that is older than the UPU, and it's celebrating this year its 160th anniversary. The ITU has as its core mandate to support universal connectivity and sustainable digital transformation. So it would be really interesting to hear from Mrs. Kagwa how the digital inclusion work done by the Post fits into the overall connectivity efforts undertaken at the global level. And after this, we will have the pleasure to hear experiences from the ground from 3 countries that are successfully leveraging their postal infrastructure to offer digital services to their people. So we will have Mr. Vivek Tomar, section officer from India Post, Dr. Lukáš Buzek, manager of specialized regulatory unit of the Czech Post, and Dr. Gift Callisto Machengete, Director General of Postal and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe. All these countries feature in the Digital Panorama report among case studies of good practices. So it will be very interesting to hear from them how they concretely make it work and what impact the Post's digital services have on the people that they serve. And finally, at the end, we will also open the floor for any comments and questions from the participants, and we are hoping to have a really lively and interactive discussion. So now, without further ado, let me please give the floor to Mr. Kevin Hernandez to present the Digital Panorama report of the UPU. Kevin, please, you have the floor.
So hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. As Raka said, my name is Kevin Hernandez, and I am a digital inclusion expert for the Digital Transformation Program and DPRM. And as the author of the report, I am very excited to be presenting it to you all. So I will not go into much detail about this because the DG already covered some of this in his speech. But the report was written with 3 main goals. The first one was to illustrate the current level of digital service diversification of DOs. Secondly, to help inform evidence-based decision-making by showing not only which services are being offered by DOs, but also which ones are in demand and which ones seem to work well for DOs and also for their partners. And the report, as Araka mentioned, includes 28 case studies from over 20 countries, which highlight examples that can inspire others to do similar things. And thirdly, and most importantly, was to highlight the postal sector's current contribution to digital inclusion, showing how posts are already promoting participation in the digital economy and digital society for less connected communities. And as the DG said in his speech, the ultimate goal is to build a strong evidence-based narrative that can help attract investments, both to connect postal infrastructure and also to support further DO diversification into digital services. So let's first take a step back to understand why this is so important. So as you all are aware, all sectors of the economy and society are undergoing a digital transformation. People are increasingly expected to use technology to access a wide range of essential services, from digital health to education, to government services, to e-commerce and finance. And this digitalization is creating tremendous opportunities in regards to increasing efficiency and reducing costs. But at the same time, it's also introducing new risks, especially for less connected groups who are at higher risks of becoming digitally excluded. At the same time, there is a growing recognition that when services are only made available digitally, that this can lead to the exclusion of less connected groups from essential services. And for this reason, what we call multi-channel service delivery is now widely considered a best practice. And to the right, you can see some recent high-level reports which promote this concept. And offering digital services through multiple channels, including low-tech options like mobile phones and other technologies that are accessible to less connected communities, as well as digitally enabled physical options, helps ensure that services are accessible to less connected groups, allowing everyone to access digitalized services according to their circumstances and their preferences. And this in-person access is crucial for anyone facing any digital barriers, whether it's no internet access, no digital device, a lack of not being able to afford connectivity, limited digital skills, language barriers, low literacy, or any other barrier that they may encounter. And we don't have to look any further than the postal sector to find examples of service providers that are proactively taking a multi-channel approach to promote inclusivity. So the image on the bottom of the slide is actually from Poste Italiane, from their Polis project, and they are leveraging a wide range of channels, including digitally equipped post office counters, electronic kiosks, and a call center alongside fully digital channels to promote greater inclusion in digital government services. And similarly, to reach less connected citizens, many governments and service providers around the world have introduced one-stop shop service centers to extend the reach of their digital service platforms. And these are basically physical places where people can access a wide range of digitally enabled services. And these are digital services because digitalization makes it possible to integrate the systems across multiple digital service providers and offer their services all under the same roof in the same physical place, allowing less connected people to visit these centers to access the same services that are available online. However, as highlighted by a recent FAO report, service centers, they tend to be concentrated in urban areas. And this means that people in remote and rural areas still need to travel very long distances to visit them, sometimes spending more money and sometimes even losing entire days traveling to access the same services that are easily accessible to people in urban areas or people with more access to technology. And posts are very well positioned to contribute to inclusive digital service delivery through a multi-channel approach in a more extensive way. As you all know, there are over 650,000 post offices globally, and a majority of them are located in rural areas, which is specifically the places where people are less likely to be connected, as shown on this graph. And this is especially true in developing regions where this gap is larger. And this, I must also say, that is not just people, but also MSMEs in rural areas tend to be less connected in developing countries. And it's not just using the internet, but people in rural areas in developing countries tend to have experienced barriers more significantly than people in urban areas. So posts are very well positioned to help overcome these barriers. And the post already has a retail service presence in these places where people have less access to technology and experience more barriers. And this retail service presence means that much of the needed infrastructure to provide digital services through in-person channels is already in place. So this presents a significant opportunity to both diversify revenue streams for DOs, while also leveraging the postal infrastructure for social impact and for achieving the policy objectives of national governments, such as bridging the digital divide and leaving no one behind. So the report helps provide evidence that the points mentioned in the previous slides are more than just a narrative, but something that is already happening. And this was thanks to an in-depth survey of 153 DOs across the world, examining 90 digital services across 6 sectors, including digital postal services, e-commerce, digital financial services, e-government services, digital connectivity, and digital health services. And the results of the survey were striking, and they were actually very surprising to us. So as expected, 74% of DOs offer digital postal services, which makes it the most offered digital service type. But what was surprising to us was the extent to which DOs are offering digital services that are not widely seen as postal services. So, for example, 71% of DOs are offering e-commerce services and are thus promoting economic inclusion through the post. 58% offer digital financial services and are thus promoting financial inclusion. 51% of DOs are offering e-government services, and this actually really surprised us. And they're promoting social inclusion. And 70% are providing at least one digital connectivity service or solution. So the data illustrates that posts are playing a significant role and are contributing significantly to the digital economy and are acting as strategic partners for governments and private sector actors seeking to advance digital inclusion through a multi-channel service delivery approach. The report also found that 34% of posts are showing signs of becoming one-stop shops for a wide range of digital services by offering a combination of e-commerce services, digital financial services, and e-government services all under the same roof. Taking things a step further, it's not just which services DOs offer that promotes inclusion, but it is how they are offering them. So our data show that posts are contributing to multi-channel service delivery, which, as mentioned earlier, is now widely recognized as a best practice for inclusion. Specifically, we found that DOs are most likely to deliver digital services in person with the support of staff at digitally enabled post office counters. And also, some DOs are even bringing services to the citizens' doorsteps through delivery staff that are equipped with digital devices. And as you can see from the graph, the majority of posts offering e-government services do so in person through post office counters. I couldn't fit all the graphs on the same slide, but the same pattern appears for other digital service types like digital financial services and digital health. And this makes a lot of sense because in many situations, these services don't actually fully belong to DOs. Instead, DOs are acting as partners that are providing human touchpoints for the digital services of governments and private partners. So in other words, DOs deliver digital services with a human touch and are playing a role as inclusion enablers for governments and for private partners. And the postal network's physical footprint seems to be its unique selling point in the digital service provision landscape, helping less connected users more easily engage with services that they may otherwise lack access to or need to travel very long distances to access. And this complements the fully digital channels that are available to more connected users and thus empowers everyone with more choice and more options regarding how they access services. And as mentioned earlier, the report contains case studies from countries across all UPU regions and income levels, covering a wide range of sectors. And each of these case studies illustrates how a DO supports inclusivity or advances the national government's priorities through diversification into digital services. Normally, this would be the part of the presentation where I would present some of these case studies, but I will not go into them into detail because, as Radka mentioned, we will have 3 of these case studies being presented later in this webinar. Sorry, give me 1 second. But we encourage you to explore the rest of the case studies, which can be found throughout the boxes of the report. So some DOs, as mentioned earlier, are already playing a big role in the digital economy and in digital society. The report also found that DOs would like to play an even bigger role. Among DOs that are not just yet offering digital services, demand to start offering them is high, especially for e-commerce and for digital postal services, which obviously is not surprising, given that these sectors traditionally well align with the postal sector's traditional mandate. However, we also found very strong interest in introducing more digital financial services and e-government services. That said, demand for these two digital service types is a bit lower, which suggests that some DOs may need to be convinced, either by governments or through evidence of success of other DOs diversifying into these areas, like the stats and the examples highlighted in this report. And we also found that demand to introduce new digital services is highest in developing regions, which is where our efforts must be prioritized. And another key finding of the report is that once these digital services are introduced, they are rarely ever discontinued by DOs. And to our surprise, this was true across all digital service types, not just digital postal services. E-commerce services, digital financial services, and e-government services, they all stick over 92% of the time. The story is a bit more mixed for connectivity services as a group, although some individual connectivity services do stick over 90% of the time. So this high level of stickiness is signals that providing digital services via the postal infrastructure through a multi-channel approach provides value both for DOs and for their partners who would otherwise decide to discontinue these services. So all I have presented until this point demonstrates enormous potential for DOs to promote digital inclusion while also diversifying their revenue streams. But challenges remain that limit the ability of posts to fully realize that potential, and I will now go into them. So firstly, the benefits of introducing digital services through the postal network would be most significant in developing regions where digital divides are deeper and rural communities are far less likely to be connected. However, DOs in developing regions are least likely to offer digital services. So as a result, posts in these regions are missing out on an opportunity to diversify their revenue streams while also contributing more strongly to digital inclusion efforts. And also, DOs that offer digital services in developing regions tend to offer a more limited range of digital services, meaning they less fully contribute to digital inclusion. So future digital service diversification efforts of the Post should be prioritizing these regions once again. Secondly, leveraging the postal infrastructure for multi-channel service delivery through digitally equipped postal counters requires that post offices be connected to the internet and equipped with digital devices. Unfortunately, too many post offices are currently not connected to the internet, so recent UPU estimates suggest that approximately 100,000 post offices are not connected to the internet, with posts in developing countries and those in rural areas being the least likely to have connectivity. So connecting post offices in underserved areas, especially in developing regions, must be prioritized. And lastly, the report also found that the postal sector's contribution to digital inclusion is currently largely being overlooked by the international community. So for example, post offices are not mentioned in the United Nations Global Digital Compact, despite the connectivity of other public infrastructure, such as schools and hospitals, being included in the Global Digital Compact as key priorities. And although multi-channel service delivery is now widely recognized as a best practice, DOs are currently not being recognized as potential contributors. For example, the latest UN e-government survey report stresses the importance of multi-channel service delivery to promote inclusion, but does not mention the postal sector nor any DO, despite our report finding that they are significant contributors to e-government service provision. So by sharing and presenting this report to a wide range of actors, we hope to help bridge this gap by raising awareness of the postal sector's potential role and helping promote digital inclusion, with the ultimate goal, once again, of attracting investments and other resources for post office connectivity and the sector's digital transformation. And that last point is especially important because the report also found that the number one barrier to introducing more digital services is insufficient investment resources by a very wide margin, and especially in developing regions. However, this is not the only notable barrier. other major barriers include high competition, for example, in e-commerce and digital finance, weak digital infrastructure and unreliable connectivity, limited government awareness of what Post can offer, lack of guidance materials, insufficient digital skills among postal staff, and among other barriers which we don't have the time to get into. And the report also breaks these down by region, showing where support is most urgently needed, which once again shows that support is most needed in developing countries. So the report includes recommendations for many actors, including governments, regulators, DOs, UN organizations, and the private sector, among other actors. And they can all be found in the conclusion as well as the executive summary. For now, I will only highlight some recommendations for governments and for DOs, which applies to most people who have joined this webinar. So we strongly encourage governments to embed a multi-channel service delivery approach in national digital policies in line with best practices to promote inclusivity, and to explicitly include DOs in digital transformation strategies because, as I mentioned earlier, they're currently being overlooked. More generally, governments and regulators should empower DOs to diversify into digital services through enabling policy and regulatory environments. On the other hand, we encourage DOs to contribute to the inclusivity of digital transformation efforts and to multi-channel service delivery approaches for both governments and for private partners through diversification into digital services. However, once again, this requires post offices to be connected to the internet and equipped with digital devices. So governments, DOs, donors, and other relevant partners must work together to prioritize post office connectivity and to mobilize resources for their connectivity. And regulators can play a key role here by facilitating access to national level funds from the telecommunications sector's Universal Service and Access Funds. Also, offering digital services via DOs effectively requires digitally upskilling of the postal staff, including those at the post office counter and in some cases the delivery staff. Lastly, we would like to foster peer learning and cooperation initiatives between DOs. And I'd like to end the presentation by highlighting how the findings are already shaping our own work in the digital transformation program at DPRM. So firstly, the report provides a very strong evidence base for the Connect.Post initiative, which is our flagship project to connect every post office in the world to the internet and leverage them to promote digital inclusion through diversification into digital services. Secondly, we are using the findings for advocacy, and we are presenting them at major international events, such as the Internet Governance Forum and the World Summit on the Information Society. Thirdly, the findings and the case studies of the report have proven to be a very powerful tool for partner engagement. Many organizations are surprised by how much the postal sector can contribute to digital inclusion, and several organizations have invited us to present the report to their members and their partners and their communities. Fourthly, the findings are informing our capacity building development efforts, and we are designing courses based on the report. And finally, the findings are also helping us support DOs and governments in our technical assistance when preparing funding proposals for connectivity and digital transformation projects as well. So that was a very broad overview of the report's findings. Of course, the full report goes into much more depth. It's 140 pages long and it's filled with data, visuals, and examples. We strongly encourage you all to have a look. And please feel free to reach out to our team with any questions. Thank you very much for your attention. I now hand the floor back to Radka.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kevin, for this comprehensive presentation. And as you mentioned, the report, still in its pre-designed version, is already ready. It's on the UPU webpage, and you included the link to it in the invite to this event. Thank you also for highlighting several key findings from the report, notably the fact that the posts are progressively becoming digital one-stop shops that empower people who often have been left behind in the digital transformations. And that is mainly thanks to their capacity to always offer a helping hand, to have also the physical presence sometimes in really remote and rural areas where no other service providers can go. Now I would like to turn to our next panelist, Mrs. Irene Kagwa from the International Telecommunications Union. Mrs. Kagwa is heading a special initiative inside the ITU, which is connecting schools around the world. It's the famous GIGA initiative that is done jointly with UNICEF. And she previously also worked as Director of Engineering and Communication Infrastructure at the Uganda Communications Commission. So she also has the knowledge of the challenges regarding the connectivity on the ground. Mrs. Kagwa, we are curious to hear from you your perspective on the digital inclusion through the existing infrastructure, such as POST, as described in our report, but also what is the ITU's experience in trying to connect schools around the world, and how do all these efforts can come together for more synergies? Please, you have the floor. And if you want, we can continue sharing the screen with your presentation if it's easier for you. Just let us know when to turn the slides, please.
Thank you so much, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all. Apologies, somehow technology has this way it chooses when to misbehave, and it's doing that to me at this point. So that is why my camera is not on. But thank you very much to the UPU team for inviting us to be part of this, and congratulations on this launch of the report. A very good report, I must say. In the interest of time, please move on to the next slide. So when we talk about where we are and the importance of inclusion, according to the facts and figures of ITU for 2024, we found that 2.6 billion people are still offline. Now, when you look at the breakdown in terms of urban and rural, and many times we end up thinking these are only in the rural areas, but even in the urban areas that we find people are still not online for different reasons. And when, again, you look at the economics of the countries, you find that this is even more significant in developing countries or least developing countries. Next slide, please. Why are these people offline? So there are a number of reasons, but when you look, typically we always talk about the supply side in terms of coverage and all these other issues, but there are also demand side issues that keep people offline. Issues such as the affordability of the service. We found that in, for example, developing countries, the cost of the services is almost double what Broadband Commission looks at 2%, and it's actually at 4.2%. And the other aspect is not everybody can afford an internet-enabled phone. Because again, affordability, they have to decide, should they buy a meal, should they buy a device? Today, the devices are still very out of reach for many people. Digital skills, yes, Kevin was talking about the staff in post offices needing digital skills, but even for users, it is not obvious how to use the internet. It's not like riding a bicycle using a feature phone where you just dial in the numbers and press green and you're calling, and when the call ends, press red to end it. In the case of the internet, you need to know, where do I go? How do I get online? How do I use the applications? Which application do I need? And where do I go to find what information? So digital skills become very key. And finally, the issue of relevance. I've had people who were like, I don't need to go to the internet because I don't have pen pals. So they end up thinking internet is just about social media because they don't see how it relates to them. What are they going to do online? Next slide, please. When we look at the post offices traditionally have very good locations within communities, within reach because of their historical nature. They already have existing buildings that have now been relegated in terms of level of utilization. They already have a network distribution. In Uganda, where I come from, the post office has the most punctual bus service because they had to move at a certain time and arrive at a certain time. They have systems that they have established. UPU has been supporting countries and DPOs to be able to set up security systems, storage systems that ensure quality of service. And of course, they have human resource that are now not fully utilized. So when we come to the issue, and again, Kevin did a good job of speaking to some of the findings and the opportunities. How can post offices help in terms of this issue of inclusion? We've already talked about the fact that many people can't afford to own a phone. So shared facilities are still very much a reality that we need to consider. And post offices become a vantage point where you already have a building, a secure building, so you don't have to then set up a new building. You can utilize the existing infrastructure, just add computers. Possibly there's already electricity, so you won't then have to put on new electricity, or you can also add alternative sources like solar, but it becomes a low-hanging fruit in terms of providing a community access point. Skilling. We've seen in Uganda how utilizing these access points, when they exist, you have different stakeholders that can come to provide basic skilling to the community. So it becomes a facility that enables the community to come and have a basic digital skilling, irrespective of whether it's a young person or an older person or a literate person. It creates the foundation to have that digital skilling addressed. And transversal skilling is something that has become very important now as we train people in digital skilling. SMEs, women entrepreneurs, farmers, if you train them skilling, digital skills, while also integrating this with their vocation or their profession, then that makes it more relevant to them. Finally, in terms of relevance, again, the post offices advantage facilities to address e-commerce. In COVID, we saw the importance of back in Uganda, for example, knowing a border person, but more and more people realized that they could set up shops in their homes and in other aspects. And as we go the importance of e-commerce becomes very critical. So how you store these, how you distribute your facilities, how you track them. Post offices already have systems and infrastructure that can boost, especially when we look at the small to medium enterprises, or even the micro enterprises, because then it reduces their costs in terms of warehousing and in terms of all these other vantage opportunities that the post office can provide. Additionally, e-government services. Again, Kevin spoke about the one-stop center. We have post offices that are now, as I mentioned, the infrastructure is already there. So by just adding, if you have the internet there and you have the portal, then the post office is able to address various community and public services that need to go online. Issues like issuing of national identity, paying of electricity bills. You don't then have to have each government office set up a new branch in every place, thus reducing the cost of doing business by government, but also easing the availability and again creating a relevance to the public in terms of why they need to go online. You're able to provide support facilities or people to help community of those who do not know. You're able to even print some of these services within the post offices. And of course, we are always looking at spurring demand. When someone comes and has this shared access, as their business grows, they're able to then decide to spin off and have maybe and be able to buy their own device because they have now seen the utility of the service and appreciated it. So it also helps address another critical aspect of growing the market. And then socioeconomic boosting. We keep talking about unemployment as a challenge, especially in Africa, where there is a heavily youthful population. So by setting up these facilities, you're able to bring in more people into the economy because then they have opportunity to be able to set up businesses and the like. One more slide, please. So to make this possible, because yes, we've talked about what are the opportunities and everything, what are some of the things? Again, Kevin has already spoken about what needs to be done. There's need for us to invest in the connectivity of the post offices, of the areas, so that again, we are able to leverage this opportunity of providing internet access to our people. We need to be able to set up multi-stakeholder collaborations. When we look at issues like skilling, if the post office provides the facility, another partner can come in to do the skilling. Another partner may be the one to, provide the internet connectivity, maybe through a universal service fund or other arrangement by government. So working collaboratively would help create a value chain that increases the value proposition to the community that is being served. Enabling policy and regulation. We end up wanting to look at these in silos, but technology has blurred all the boundaries. So you can no longer say Postal is limited to only postal services. We've seen the opportunities in terms of financial services, and now we need to be able to only look at how do we leverage what infrastructure, what opportunities are available, and how do we allow that flexibility to, without increasing the cost of business in terms of additional licensing requirements or additional licenses to be obtained by the post office, because then these erode the opportunity that the post office has to provide. Finally, we also need to look at the issue of integrated infrastructure planning, issues such as electricity, and looking at all these facilities like the post office as vantage utilities or infrastructure that government can harness to be able to address the general infrastructure requirements in the country in terms of provision of public services, in terms of provision of the internet to communities, in terms of delivery of other aspects like boosting agriculture because of the warehouse, facilitating e-commerce. This kind of integrated planning is very important. In interest of time, I'll stop there because I suspect I've used up all my time. But thank you very much, and congratulations again to the UPU team on the report.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Irene, for your warm words and also for the interesting presentation. And I'm sure there will be a lot of questions and comments, so you can come to some of the points later on as well. You mentioned a really important thing about the danger of working in silos and how it is important to look at the existing infrastructure that is already there and that needs to be leveraged. And if it's properly leveraged and integrated into the national digital transformation strategies, that it can really work as a great tool to promote the digital inclusion in the areas which are most affected by this lack of connectivity. And you mentioned 2.6 billion people are still offline, and most of them in rural, remote areas, low-income countries, and least developed countries. So with this, I now turn to our three panelists from three countries that have already perfectly leveraged the postal infrastructure in their areas and now are featuring also in the Digital Panorama report as good case studies and possible inspirations to others. So I give the floor to the first one, Mr. Vivek Tomar from India, who is working as a section officer in India Post. Mr. Tomar, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Radka. Am I audible?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, so good morning and afternoon, everyone, depending on your respective time zones. It is a privilege to share India Post experience in adopting a phygital approach. So this case study highlights how India Post is transforming financial inclusion and export facilitation, bringing modern digital services to every corner of the country through trusted post offices. Can we have the next page slide? So India Post Payment Bank uses the physical network and delivery personnel to reach remote areas. Around 165,000 post offices and 110 million customers across 560,000 villages, towns. Phygital model combines physical access and digital enablement to provide postal services in remote areas. Services like paperless, cashless, even presence-less banking with around 13 languages digital interfaces. Can we have the next slide? So when we talk about role of digitally enabled counters, the post office locations act as a trusted access point in communities where we don't have a full reach of or access about our banks and fintechs. When we talk about delivery staff, they are equipped with smartphones and biometric system. They can bring door-to-door services, overcoming barriers like remote areas, tribal, hilly areas. So the hybrid approach of physical and digital model ensures people who are not that digitally literate or without strong internet access still get assisted service. Multilingual support, as we all know, that the diversity of India and simple interfaces reduce the barrier of language literacy because the network is already trusted and pervasive India Post. It helps build confidence among first users of digital financial services. Can we have the next slide? So the other thing is that Dak Ghar Niryat Kendras, empowering MSMEs. The initiative of Department of Post launched the concept of DNKs to facilitate e-commerce export services for the assistance to rural artisans, micro, small, and medium enterprises, the traders, and to provide them services like booking and transmission of export consignments, even electronic filing of postal bill of export, and custom clearance support. So the scale, when we talk about scale of DNKs, we have more than 1,000 DNKs set up nationwide as per 2025. Next slide. So how this DNKs contribute to digital inclusion? So the globally e-commerce export channel via post infrastructure bring rural and peri MSMEs into digital trade, offer digital filing, tracking, customs, and logistics supports, reducing complexity and cost for smaller players. This DNK enhances visibility and market reach for artisan traders who previously may have been excluded due to distance or digital know-how. This also encourages digital literacy, digital logistics, and digital payments tracking mechanisms, even in remote areas with a trusted local access point. The DNKs also help generate livelihoods in less connected regions, which amplify economic inclusion in addition to financial inclusion. Next slide, please. So India Post role in hosting Aadhaar enrollment and updation center. India Post has set up Aadhaar enrollment cum updation center across the country within its post office networks. So service includes enrollment of biometric and demographic and updation of names, details like names, address, mobile, iris, even fingerprints to the post office counters. Even the UIDI of India has trained 48,000 postmen for Aadhaar doorstep services in remote areas. Services like child enrollment lifeline via post network for children Aadhaar enrollment. It is used for postal network for children's Aadhaar enrollment updation. Can we have next slide? How this Aadhaar has contributed to digital inclusion. Having Aadhaar enrollment updation points in post offices significantly improves identity access for rural remote areas, which is very critical for accessing digital services, subsidies, and financial services provided by government. So doorstep, this also can be provided by doorstep mobile number update and child enrollment services, which also reduces travel and time barrier for underserved population. By enabling identity inclusion, the foundation is set for broader digital digital trade and digital services inclusion. Next slide. So other digital inclusion initiative by India Post is DigiPin initiative, which is a geo-coded digital addressing system developed in collaboration with IIT Hyderabad and ISRO and NRSC. So purpose of DigiPin is to simplify address identification, especially in areas which are very backward and remote, and no formal address settings, where there is no formal address setting. Which also facilitate e-commerce logistics, service delivery, and digital public infrastructure, which is also known as address as a service. Digital upgrades to post operations, for example, introduction of advanced postal technology 2.0, which provides real-time tracking, OTP-based deliveries, digital payment acceptance via UPI at rural post offices by India Post. So contribution of Aadhaar card, having Aadhaar card enrollment and updation points in post offices significantly improves identity access for rural and remote areas critical for accessing digital services, subsidies, and financial services. It provides doorstep mobile number update and child enrollment service, reduce travel time barrier for underserved population. By enabling identity inclusion, the foundation is set for broader okay, OTP. Next slide, please. Okay, how this tie into digital inclusion? Accurately digital addressing, which is also known as which is via DigiPen, ensure that remote communities are visible in the digital economy, not off-grid or invisible to service logistic platforms. Digital postal operations mean that customers in less connected areas can access digital payment and digital delivery services via trusted physical digital interface. All of this strengthen the infrastructure and trust layer required for inclusive digital access, both for the individual and financial inclusion for enterprises. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Tomar. That was really interesting. And you mentioned some fantastic numbers, like 165,000 post offices that offer digital services to 110 million customers. I think these numbers are really hard to beat. Congratulations for that. You clearly demonstrated how post offices can work as a tool for e-commerce and how they can facilitate access, especially of small and medium-sized companies to global trade and to new markets. This leads me to our second panelist from the postal experience, which is Dr. Lukáš Buzek, who will be sharing experience from the Czech Post about facilitating access to e-government services. So we now heard about e-commerce. Now we are moving more into e-government. Please, Mr. Buzek, you have the floor.
Thank you for the floor, and also thank you for the opportunity to present some digital services provided by Czech Post in this webinar. Next slide, please. The main subject of my presentation is service with a beautiful name, Checkpoint. So what is Checkpoint? In short, it's a platform for assisted access to the public administration system, which enables citizens and also businesses to interact with the state more easily. The system provides certified extracts from public registers and also authentication and legalization services. The service is available at 760 contact points of the Czech Post. With the logo you can see in the right. The number may seem really low compared to India, but the area of Czechia is of course much smaller than Indian territory. Over 4 million transactions are carried out at the Czech Post branches annually. To put this figure into context again, Czechia has about 1 million inhabitants, so I think 4 million transactions is quite a significant number. Next slide, please. So what are the advantages of the Checkpoint services from point of view of the citizen or customer, if you want? It's convenience, time efficiency, and accessibility. Checkpoint enables citizens to obtain various official documents in a single location. This eliminates the need to visit multiple government offices or travel to a big city or and so on. You can stay in your village where is your local post office, and you can use this service. So you don't need to visit multiple authorities, and all services are provided at one counter with convenient opening hours at some post offices even during the weekends. It's worth to say that the service is provided at the regular counter, so like the same counter where you can post your packet or pick up your packet or letter item. So normal postal service. And also big advantage is accessibility. With hundreds of service points located in post offices, Checkpoint ensures that public administration services are available even in small towns and rural areas. So this is the very important aspect of the service. Next slide, please. And there are, of course, advantages also for the Czech Post. First of all, service diversification, which is, I think, very important if you want to keep your postal network working. It's important to broaden the range of services offered. So that's why we really appreciate the possibility to provide checkpoint services. With the service diversification also comes the increased customer engagement. So citizens who use checkpoint services bring additional traffic to post offices, which can also promote other postal products and services. So there is a, I would say, shared benefits in this aspect. And of course, it is additional revenue stream because the checkposts receive service fees for each transaction processed through checkpoint, which provides a steady and valuable source of income. And the service helps to ensure the financial sustainability of the branch network, which is really big challenge for in an environment where the traditional services, especially letter items, decrease in a very fast way. Next slide, please. The financial aspect, of course, comes with the question, how are the checkpoint services charged? The system is very simple because the services are subject to fixed administrative fee, which is regulated by the Czech government. Customer can pay this directly at the post office before the document he asks for or the service he asks for is issued. The pricing is transparent and uniform because the fee is in the same high as the fee charged by the administrative authority for the same service. The only difference or the only disadvantage for the checkpost is that the checkpost has to pay VAT, but it's not that important. Next slide, please. So more specifically about services offered. As I said before, the main goal is to provide certified extracts from public registers. You can obtain an extract from, in fact, any public register, and the most important are, as everywhere probably, criminal register, land register, driver's register, commercial register, insolvency register, and many others, of course. But there are also other services. As I mentioned before, the important service is also authentication of documents and legalization of signatures. When you need confirmation of authenticity of your signature on a document, you can just visit your local post office and the job is done. Another popular services is document conversion. On the checkpoint, you can convert your paper documents into electronic form and vice versa. And also you can request for creation or management of a data mailbox, which is the next service I will talk about. So please, next slide. Among other digital services offered by the checkpost, the most important is definitely data mailbox system. Data mailbox is a secure electronic communication system used in the Czech Republic for official correspondence between citizens, companies, and public authorities. It allows users to send and receive official documents online, and what is important, messages sent through the system have legal validity equal to the traditional written correspondence. The checkpost provides the entire system. Through 4 million data mailboxes, 150 million documents are sent every year, so it's a quite huge number in the context of size of Czechia as a country. The next slide, please. The last service I will talk about is another service designed to make it easier for people to navigate themselves in the digital world. The service is called Postal. Postal is a certification authority operated by the checkpost, which issues qualified digital certificates used to electronically sign or encrypt documents. These certificates verifies a person or organization in the digital environment, so just enabling people for legal binding electronic signatures and secure online communication. So in short, These were some digital services provided by Checkpoint. Thank you for your attention and for the opportunity to be part of this exciting seminar and very, very important topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Buzek. This was very interesting. And as a Czech citizen, I can only confirm that I'm a happy user of the checkpoint as well. You also mentioned an important aspect, which is all the advantages that the diversification into digital services brings to the postal operators themselves, on top of also empowering the communities that they serve digitally. So now we are moving into our last example of a country that is successfully leveraging post offices, which is Zimbabwe. So I give the floor to Dr. Gift Kalisto Machengete to tell us more about the ZimPost digital centers, which serve both as digital connectivity and e-government services facilitators. Dr. Machengete, you have the floor, please.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you for giving us the floor. Let me acknowledge the Director General, Mr. Masahiko Metoki, and everybody else. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm going to talk about Zimbabwe's digital centers. The centers which actually facilitate digital connectivity and e-government services through our post office. To begin with, we are actually looking at a digital, digital divide. That's why on my first slide, there is a bridge there. So we would want to bridge that digital divide. In Zimbabwe, we have 6.7 million people unconnected. And most of these people are actually in the rural areas where, of course, most services would be absent. So as the regulator, we decided then to ensure that we move into those areas. And the most important organization which had a footprint in those areas was our designated operator, that is ZimPost. So we then went in using universal service funds to then refurbish the post offices and create the digital centers, the digital centers as we now know them. We can go to the next slide. So I'm going to just indicate the challenges. I've already talked of the problem, which is our digital divide. And the learning outcomes. I will also look at the infrastructure that is needed. And of course, I'll give you some key statistics of our achievement so far. And of course, I will end up by indicating that these digital centers are actually a stepping stone to digitalization. What should be clear is that what we are trying to do is to ensure that we have connectivity with meaning, that is meaningful connectivity. So I did put another bridge there, which is a shaky bridge. You find that in Zimbabwe, actually, it's in a tourist attraction center, and it's for tourists. It's shaky. It's different from the bridge which was on my first slide, which is robust and strong. So what we are trying to build in our digital centers is a very strong, bridge that can withstand time, and hence the need to go for already established infrastructure, and that infrastructure is found in our posts, which posts have got a physical footprint throughout the country. Now, when we look at this next slide, we are moving from communication using drums on your left, to communication using pigeons during the World War, to our letterboxes. All that is becoming things of the past. Now, the meaning now of connectivity that we are looking at is having social, professional, or commercial relationships in real time. So, next, please. So, we are moving away from the traditional way, where, of course, in rural areas, the rural areas have been left behind. In my slide there, you see the two girls there playing with stones and so forth. That is a very popular, game in the rural areas. But on your right, you are seeing children busy with the computers, new technology. So this is what we want to bridge. So this problem that we have, the problem statement would then have to be to include our elderly who are traveling long distances to access government services. For example, death certificates, birth certificates, they have to travel long distances for them to be able to get those. And yet we have a post which they are used to, where they have always been getting services in terms of letters and so forth, which we can now transform into a digital services center. And they will now be able to access digital tools, able to access training, and also affordable internet. Because at these digital centers, we actually put up internet, very fast internet actually. We are using, Starlink, which is the LEO, to do so. I've talked of the challenges already, the digital communities, the need for the smart post office, because what we are doing is actually creating what we can call a smart post office, where we convert this post office into inclusive multi-service digital hubs for all centers, for all citizens. And the idea really is, at the end of it all, these centers are supposed to develop into centers of excellence, which will be like small, developing areas of excellence, where you can even have industry leveraging on the availability of digital platforms at your post offices. Next, please. Next slide. So we are saying all the challenges I have talked about are not really challenges, but excuses. They are not excuses, because we can actually have timely and relevant information in underserved areas. We can ensure that underserved areas can also access statistics. They can also access emerging trends. We can ensure that the limited digital literacy that they have is taken care of. They have access to online research. They can use AI tools, and we provide online training. On infrastructure, we know that electricity is normally in short supply or difficult in rural areas. But what we have done is that we have gone further to try and solarize those areas, to make sure that electricity or energy problems stop being a problem. So we cannot give an excuse of there not being or having no energy. And also, connectivity I've already mentioned. And the connectivity that we have is of a high level through through Starlink, that is the LEOs. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yes. So having said all this, what we have managed to do is to improve from the normal way of giving connectivity and information. For example, we are talking of connectivity that will assist you to recall facts, to gain basic concepts, to be able to explain ideas and understand. That is the norm. But we are saying with our digital centers, we go further than that. We would want our communities to be able to apply, to be able to analyze, to be able to evaluate, and to be able to create products that can even go onto the market. So this is what the digital center has got to do. We are moving away from just being theoretical or book-based learning to actually producing products that can actually go onto the market. These products coming from the digital center. Next slide. Previous one. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. So, as I've said, the digital center is actually a stepping stone. It is a stepping stone for digital economy, for growth. It is a stepping stone where we optimize agriculture. It is a stepping stone where we create products for the global market. It is a stepping stone for pensioners to actually get all their services in one place, and entrepreneurs as well, because at our digital centers, we also promote innovation. We have what we call the innovation drive, where we actually give funds to budding new innovators who come up with applications which can solve specific problems that are happening in the country. So it has become that stepping stone to development and to digitalization in general. The services offered at our centers, they include e-government services, which means the e-government services inclusion, telemedicine, which is e-health inclusion. We also have banks who have actually come into our digital centers. So they are offering financial inclusion in the rural area, e-commerce, because in some of our rural areas, the rural areas are actually good in some specific activity or some specific product. So they do not know how to market those products elsewhere in other regions. But with the digital center now, they can engage in e-commerce and be able to then sell their products elsewhere. We also have digital literacy, where we are actually training people in digital literacy. And for this year alone, we have actually trained 5,234 people in digital, skills. And not only the basic skills, but also even coding itself. Yes, the other services as well. We do have, for example, the tax collectors, taxation. They have also set shop in our digital, centers, whereby they offer tax services in there and even collect tax. The e-government services include access to the Registrar General's office and electronic procurement, which is a platform where people who want to sell goods and services to government have got to go and participate in tenders. This was happening in towns only. Now it's happening in digital centers because they are also there. So we have sort of created an e-government platform in the digital where all these services are available, including even e-learning, because in some digital centers, the schools are near, but the schools may not have the capacity or the relevant buildings to protect electronic gadgets. So such schools or government departments nearby are also utilizing our digital centers for e-learning, purposes. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes. So, what are the statistics? We have renovated 144 post offices, and after we renovated the 144 post offices and turned them into digital centers, we realized that there were some areas where we did not have post offices, but there was need for digital inclusion there as well. So we introduced the containerized digital centers where we fabricated some containers and, solarized them and put them there. For that, we did 24. And after that as well, we realized that we still had areas where we needed to actually build the digital centers. So we have built 32. We are still building. There are some which we repossessed, which were some old, function halls in rural areas where people would go and have entertainment. Some of those have been repurposed to become digital centers as well. So in total, we have 204 at the moment. That is an example of one of the brick and mortar digital centers which we are building across the country. And 32 of those have been built, and we have also started solarizing them. You can see on top there are some solar panels. We started to solarize this so that we do not have problems with lack of electricity. Next slide. The one on your left there is the example of a containerized digital center. On one side, there is a training container. On the other one is the digital center. So people are trained there, and then the other one works as a digital center. And in all our digital centers, we put computers with internet access, Wi-Fi and LAN connectivity. There are printers, there are scanners, there are photocopiers, and they are solar power backed up to ensure uninterrupted service delivery. We also have started introducing educational and e-government content, and we now have at each center a trained center manager and some ICT assistants to run with all these programs as well. Next. Yes, so what are the future opportunities? Future opportunities, we are leveraging the LEOs at all our remote sites. And we are also extending renewable energy options, as I've indicated. We are also partnering with those who produce gadgets. In fact, we have just started producing some gadgets locally, especially the laptops. So that these are the laptops which we will be distributing in our digital centers. And these have got to be at an affordable price, considering that normally our rural folk may not be that financially stable. We are also delivering specialized digital skills, and I've mentioned coding and coming up with applications and so forth in these digital skills. We now also have smart lockers for e-commerce, for delivery of goods, and of course the telemedicine booths. They are there to ensure that people do not have to travel long distances to go to see a doctor in hospitals. They can now connect from the digital center, and they can only travel when it is really necessary that they have to go to a bigger hospital. Otherwise, everything can be done at the digital center within their locality. Next, please. Right. So having said all this, I would want to say that for Zimbabwe, we are saying the post is still alive, the post is relevant, and the post can be repurposed, and it can play a bigger role in the digitalization of economies. So we don't look at the post as a post that cannot be part and parcel of the current digitalization processes taking place in Zimbabwe and taking place the world over. We believe in e-government services inclusion. We believe in financial inclusion. We believe in digital inclusion and training. We believe in economic inclusion, healthy and learning inclusion, and all that can actually be done through the post which has got a bigger, longer, far-reaching physical footprint in our economies. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Machengete, for this very comprehensive but also very positive presentation, also with regard to the future possibilities of Post. You mentioned that your centers are doing all kinds of digital services, from e-health to financial inclusion, e-government platforms, e-learning. You also said that there are already 204 centers and there are still more to come because you're building new ones. So congratulations for that. As this was our last panelist, we are now moving into the part for questions and any comments from our audience. We still have a couple of minutes. So I would like to open the floor if anybody would like to make an intervention, ask questions to the panelists. The floor is open, please. And if you can always please say from which country you're from, present yourself briefly. I can now see a raised hand by Mr. CE. I can't see the name. CPAO.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. C'est Monsieur Adama Diouf. Je suis le secrétaire.
Thank you very much. I am the secretary of the CPAO. First of all, I would like to thank the UPU for giving us this wonderful opportunity. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Masahiko Metoki for their re-election for Director General and Vice Director General. I'd like to thank the various panelists for the high quality of their intervention. It seems to me that the most important point in their presentation is the digital divide, the fact that it is necessary to improve connection to the network. Of course, the UPU and post offices are very important factors in providing access to digital services. But what I have realized, as the first panelist underlined, the preferred partners sometimes do not seize this opportunity. They do not understand the role that post offices can play in giving access to digital services. So I think it's important to talk about the program developed by UPU so that partners and service providers should be recognized by the United Nations. It has to be said that the UPU is one of the pillars of the United Nations family. So I think we need to improve on that. And it would be the right moment to launch an appeal to the UPU in order to include this in our strategy, our Dubai strategy, in order to try and convince our partners to embark on this digital transformation and greater access of our population. This is my intervention. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You mentioned two important points, which is lack of connectivity. As was mentioned, 100,000 post offices around the world are still unconnected. And this is also one of the objectives of our Connect.Post flagship initiative of the UPU to support the digital transformation of these post offices, to connect them and to leverage their connectivity for the digital services to their communities. And the other point that you mentioned is the lack of awareness of the role that the post offices can play in digital inclusion within the global international digital community. And this is why we also invited to this webinar a lot of our UN agency partners. So not just the ITU, which was among the speakers, but we also have UNCTAD among ourselves, if I'm not mistaken, and we invited all other agencies because this message needs to come across. And we definitely took note of your point about raising our advocacy efforts so that the post offices are duly recognized in these overall connectivity efforts. Thank you. Anybody else would like to take the floor to ask questions or raise any comment? Maybe while participants are still reflecting, I would have a follow-up questions to some of our postal sector partners. One of the major challenges that was also mentioned in our presentation at the beginning is the lack of investment into the digitalization of the postal infrastructure. So my question would be, especially to the Czech Republic and India as panelists, about where did you find the funding for the transformation of the post offices so that they can deliver the digital services? We heard from the representative of Zimbabwe that they use the Universal Service and Access Funds, but it would be interesting to also hear from the others. Where were the sources of funding? How did you manage to pull it off? If anybody would like to take the floor, Mr. Buzek or Mr. Tomar.
Maybe I can take the floor.
Yes, please.
Because I was speaking. It's a difficult question, of course. First of all, speaking about our service checkpoint, it was considered from the start as a way of extra revenues. So the investment was relatively small, and we used potential which was embedded in the existing postal network. So from this point of view, I would say it was a relatively cheap solution, which is economically sustainable, economically viable. Of course, there are other services which may be more difficult to finance. In Czech Republic or in Czechia, mailbox system, data mailbox system is one of the most, I would say, financially demanding services. The financing is currently done from state budget, but there's also always problem because it is under the law of European Union considered as public aid, so it's very difficult to obtain the compensation, and it really doesn't help Czech Post to profit because it's only basically it only covers our costs. So yeah, it's a difficult question, but I think like we cannot give a general answer. It depends on the service and on its economical sustainability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was still very useful. Mr. Tomar, would you also like to chip in on the funding issue?
Yes. Regarding this funding issue, most of the funding is being provided by government of India, and whatever it takes to bring any new technology or this transformation for this digital inclusion is there. So most of the funds are being provided by government of India only.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So there is great support from the government of India when it comes to leveraging Post as a tool. My other question, because I don't see any other questions from the participants. So in the meantime, I would also have a question to our first panelist from the ITU, Mrs. Irene Kagwa, who was talking also about their efforts to do universal connectivity. So where do you see potential cooperation in our respective work of the UPU to connect posts and of the ITU to connect schools, which are both existing infrastructures and they can help, especially in remote areas? Where can we maybe start working together in order to create better synergies? Irene, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for that question. A very good question and important at this point where we are looking at improving utilization of available funds and resources. From the ITU, we see a number of areas where we can actually collaborate in leveraging post offices and also some of the other initiatives such as the GIGA school connectivity that we're doing. In terms of GIGA, the methodology that we already use of map modeling, finance, and contracting is one that we recognize as also being applicable to post offices as in our support to governments to improve digital inclusion. So we are able, again, to also provide the technical support, whether directly to UPU or to the countries that would be interested in connecting up post offices, in helping them to identify what is the optimum technology for each of the post offices, what would be the cost estimate to be able to address that connectivity, both from a CAPEX and OPEX point of view, and what are the financing options that can be explored in order to do so. Then finally, we are also looking at the aspect of harnessing options such as demand aggregation to improve affordability. So if a country has a decision to connect up schools, connect up post offices and other facilities, these are all vanguard users in the community that can be aggregated and be able to negotiate for lower rates. So we are certainly desirous to see post offices embraced by more countries and to support them in this context in terms of also the capacity building that was mentioned and the technical support to be able to identify how to do so.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Irene. And two of our organizations have already been in touch about possibilities to cooperate. So we are looking forward to continuing these discussions. I now see the participant from the CPEAO, please. Or is it a legacy hand? Would you like to take the floor?
Oui, Madame la Présidente.
Yes,
Après vous, je voudrais poser
Yes, absolutely. I would like to ask a question to the representative of ITU, Mrs. Irene Kagwa. Do you think that the fact of bringing together post and telecommunication system would leverage more inclusion and more participation from people?
Very good question. Irene, would you like to take that?
Indeed, as the different parties have described, it is that we look at the post office as an opportunity of existing facilities that can be transformed and utilized in this goal of digital transformation. We no longer look at it from the context of just people getting connected, but we're actually looking at it in digital transformation. So as mentioned in my remarks earlier, the post office is an opportunity where even if you introduced one computer that's on the public side, persons in the community nearby, instead of setting up a trailer, previously we've talked about telecenters and had challenges of sustainability, but utilizing the post office and having this facility as an add-on, the public access point addresses challenges around sustainability of providing such community access facilities, enabling many people in the community that may not be able to afford their own personal subscription or buy a device, or even if they had a device, maybe even just sometimes getting the money to buy a package, a monthly bundle to be connected, but maybe have just enough resources to have a session, a day session or some hours, are then able to use the post office facility that has been set up where you have an internet cafe. We've seen this in some of the countries where you then just introduce a corner because it then doesn't take much to transform or add on to the existing post office to create that public access point in there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was also very useful, and a lot of the countries, as was also mentioned by the Director General, they raised the importance of digital transformation at our last Congress, and they were also asking for some practical guidance, practical solutions that they can implement with regard to using the existing infrastructure of the postal sector. So we hope that this webinar and also our report will bring such inspiration, will bring such concrete and practical things that could be implemented. There's a number of recommendations. Kevin mentioned them at the beginning. There are more in the report, so please also go through it. We will be happy to organize more of such discussions as we move forward. And we are also inviting other countries that will want to share their experience of leveraging post offices and which are not yet mentioned in the report. Please come to us and we will be happy to discuss with you how to also share your experience through our case study library, which will also be published in the UPU webpage for everyone to see and to be inspired. I don't see any other participants asking for the floor, and I think we are also slightly beyond the timing of our webinar. So our discussion is coming to a close. I would like to thank you all very, very much for the very interactive, lively discussion. I would like to thank all our panelists for excellent presentations. It was very, very inspiring. And a big thanks also to the interpreters for their work and for staying with us until today. Please don't hesitate to contact us. We are here for you at the UPU, our digital and trade team. And we are looking forward to speaking to you and seeing you soon. Thank you very much and have a nice rest of the morning, afternoon, or evening.